Good morning, everybody, and happy Thursday. So we didn't actually get our DM2 launch yesterday, which is kind of a bummer, and I'm kind of bummed about that. I'm sorry for starting late. My son is determined to sit right there and giggle at his shows, and that's his only option, and he will do nothing short of that. And so that is the only thing. That's all right, Andrew. Make money, do good stuff, do good things, sell cars, have fun. I'll see you later. It's all good. I'll be here. All right. So I'm going to see if I can't shrink the restream chat. Yeah, I can. There we go. That's probably better. Put this over on one side over here. I've had it as like this full-size thing, but I can't search the internets, and I'm going to need the internets today. I need the interwebs. Okay, so today we're going to work on a character design. Good morning, Brent. I'll bring up this too. We're going to work on character design today, and we're going to talk about Mayrel. I've now built enough of a story that I have a good idea of where Mayrel is as a person. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to first look at my inspiration directory, because I have an inspiration directory, to kind of get an idea of what we're going to be doing for the concept work here. And an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. I'm going to work off of that. So, heading over to my reference folders. So when we look at character design and character study, I love looking at like other people's character designs, right? So we're just going to kind of go through. I have swapped and stolen a bunch of character designs from all over the place. Just get an idea and a rough idea of what I want to do with my characters. And here, I'll share this with you. Oh, that's why I can't find it. I found it. I found the thing I was looking for. I was looking for it all morning long. And I couldn't find it. All right. Okay. Let's talk about sharing the screen. Sharing the screen. The screen share. All right. Yeah, I was, it's kind of funny. I was looking for it all morning. And then at the last minute, my kid comes in here and he's like, well, what if I promised to be quiet? And I was like, you promised to be quiet yesterday. But what if I promised to be quiet this time? Like, this isn't working like you want it to. Okay, I'm looking through over here. This is just a bunch of random sketches of random characters from all over the place, right? And like hairstyles, and I like this one because this is a ton of things in a very, 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 very thin line. But, this is just how to draw random things, right? And I'm just kind of going through and looking at some of these designs. Like, I like this. This shows, like, every possible view of this head, right? There's some hairstyles and, random things. So we're looking at various things that are in here and just kind of going through. And okay, so what I've got here is sort of a folder of, or some just blue line faces, right? Just rough faces, to give me sort of an idea of where to start. Looking over here. Looking back over here, I can find a few things. I mean, like that first one that I looked at there. I like this one, right? This shows some of the character. Like, this character has obviously got a certain amount of just like, she's introverted and very anime-esque. So I'm going to put this over here. We're going to talk about Meirel. Now we've got a number of things. I'm going to go for, I'm going to take, like, I like to do the straight on view and the side view. These are the classic, waif-like. It's not what Meirel is, but, hey, we'll start somewhere, right? And we're going to take and rotate this 90 degrees. Okay. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Copy. So, a funny thing has occurred. What are you, in the wrong color mode? No, you're in the right color mode. Is it just so small? It's so small. Okay, gotcha. There we go. And I'll just copy this. One of the things that's funny about my keyboard is that I do the copy and paste function so many times now that I actually have worn the C and the V off of my keyboard. Because copy paste is one of my ongoing things. And then I will copy paste. So I actually have to now look over at the keyboard whenever I do these random copy paste things to get an idea of where the heck I put stuff. Okay. All we've got here is just some basic anime faces, right? One thing I'm going to do is, this is a full drawing over here. So let's get the pen moving. All right. We're going to take okay. Now we're just going to define in the rest of this picture. I feel like this character, unlike this little wave picture we've got going on over here, Meirel is more like, she's not totally confident in the world, but I feel like she's much more confident than the wave over here. I'm just putting in the structure of this drawing. And we're going to go around the edge here. Maybe those shoulders are a little too big for her. She's not a big person. I mean, nobody really is a big person in comics, I guess. And especially in the military. And you get huge because of exercise. But I feel like in the future, they're going to have to work really hard to keep their bodies in shape, because it's going to be easy for them to atrophy. The Hulk is huge, yes. She is not, in fact, the Hulk, I would notice. Even She-Hulk is huge. All right, so, oh man, I got more dust on my screen. I swear, I got this thing just... Oh, well, I've been working in my office all week to clean up my office and get it straightened out and get bookshelves put in and yada, yada, yada. And hey, let's figure this out. People, I was just talking about this. I like to offset the body types a little bit here. Chang is such a tiny individual. I mean, she's small. Her body type is small. Everything about her is tiny. So I want the two characters that are around her to offset that. Mayrel has to be medium-sized. And the character that will become Bennett is going to be a large person. Huge. Not huge, but a large individual. Large for a woman, certainly. But that was true in Tamerlane, and I'm going to continue that now with this. Right, and so Mayrel is going to be bigger than Chang by a lot. And that's going to be important. Well, now let's give her a thing she's doing. So, actually have her now bowed forward, and I feel like that's not what I want. So I'm going to erase all of this that I just wrote. I just drew this all in. I'm going to erase all of it. Let's talk about the boxes here. You want her chest out more, like this. And then this here. And then we'll take her hips back. She's standing up straight. Her back's arched correctly. She's not at attention per se, but we can cross her arms, which I feel like is characteristic of this character. Right? She kind of looks like, with the eyebrows up here, she looks like she's judging you anyway. I mean, judging. Lots of judging. She's our point of view character, right? This is the character that's giving us the point of view of what's going on in the story. So we want her to be serious, because the rest of the story isn't necessarily serious all the time. All right. right. Getting much better here. We've got this across the chest there just to tell me where that is. And we've got a bend going on in the body. However, looking at her head's not aligned properly for this, right? You're probably wondering, why are you doing this? Spending so much time on this? Because really her head would be back like this, and angled down, and her neck would be more like this, and the trapezius would be like that. And I feel like I'm just talking to myself, sort of, here. Okay. Now I have a body and face that I'm okay with. Now, with this, we're going to decide on a few critical things. Like, what are we dealing with when it comes to face and design and things like that? What does she look like? Now, she's... Yeah, that's cool, man. You do you. It's all good. I'll just sit here and keep talking. And raspberry pies are cool. I've got to say. I'm just saying. Okay. One thing I really want to do with this character is give her ethnicity. The Deastati, the character, the area or the group that she comes from is very, very much, they have a Slavic, Eastern, Middle Eastern, that area sort of feel to them. She's probably going to have curly hair. But I also want to give her more pronounced of a nose. So I know that I'm going to be dealing with a jaw that's pretty solid. Not horrible, but, not like big and pronounced. But I'm going to be dealing with a pretty solid jaw. And then I'm going to deal with, as far as lips go, they're going to have she has a pronounced philanthrome, which is that area right there, that under your nose, that little divot in your face, under the nose. And then we're going to go ahead and define in this nose. And I feel like from the side view, we kind of want more of a straighter nose. Like that. Right? That's not going to easily be seen from the front. Then we want to look at eyes. In the case of Middle Eastern eyes, and when we're talking about people of Middle Eastern descent, we move this over here. Hey, I wonder if I'm using the right microphone, because odds are good I'm not. Look at that. Now I'm using the right microphone. Isn't that nice? Okay. I'm just going to type in Middle Eastern woman in Google and, like everything, regret my choices. So, looking at the ethnicity of the people on here, they've got longer faces. We've got a longer face in general. Right? Thinner and longer. We do have sort of the Asian eyes. right? And the thing that differentiates them looks like the eyebrows, though. Real differentiation, because the eyebrows are pointed and very thick. What a lovely feature. All right. All right. Looks like we've got the possibility of an epicanthric fold. And that's what you call the Asian eyelid. But I'm looking at this and I'm not seeing necessarily that fold. So, okay. So it doesn't have to be that way. There we go. And now we're kind of staring down. There we go. There, like that. I don't feel like that's what I want to do. There we go. That's much better right there. Okay. There we go. Now, right here, hello, right here. Now, one other thing that we really want to do is she's not totally Middle Eastern. I mean, that's just the concept of that I wanted to work off of to start. Because the Deistati are the Deistati. They are who they are. So my next question is, can I give her curly hair? Because I think I really want curly hair. And maybe even moving on the character from taking the same character from Tamerlane. I might even give her blonde curly hair because that would break up the stereotype a little. Right? So let's break up the stereotype by giving her blonde curly hair. Boy, I don't like that profile. So, we'll have to work on that. Okay. So she's got curly hair. I can give that here like this. Which, even if she were to let's see, so a lot of this is going to be me staring at this going, and not being entirely happy with this. Because I'm not. I mean, I think we're getting closer to what we're after here, but I feel kind of like her face needs to be narrower. I want her face to be narrower, I think. This is becoming more evident. With the hair. Oh man, why did you have to change this? There we go. Photoshop in the last update changed it so that the shift key no longer... Back in the old days, the shift key used to hold it so that it was... always in scale. And now they've changed it so that it's always proportional unless you hit the shift key, which is fine, except that my keyboard is to my right, and I'm right-handed. And so hitting the keyboard at the same time, there we go, that's much better. There. That one little change has made all the difference. I feel like much narrower face. Let's see, look over here at my reference pictures. The ones that I regret. Yeah, it's not much different than what we've got over here. So somebody nicely has taken a front and side view photo of a Middle Eastern lady, and that worked really well. I assume that this is somewhat of a rhinoplasty thing, because it looks like they're really concentrating on the nose. But that at least gives me something to work with here. The nose is going to be very straight. It comes down very much like this. It's going to be one of her defining features, is going to be her nose. So I want to make sure I've got this straight and figured out, because that is definitely going to be one of those things that you're going to say, oh, that's Mayrel. Oh, man. There we go. It's very narrow as far as the front goes. Not a lot of... There we go. Very narrow on the front. I mean, this isn't a wide nose. That moves more into African. I don't think they've taken the African influence. It's interesting how being an artist means that you have like all of these skills in various fields. Like I've got anthropology. And I've got anthropology because you have to know how noses work, strangely. So I'm looking at her nose and I'm noticing that from the side view, we aren't lined up at all. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and start dinking around with this. There we go. Bring that in line. It's no longer in line with one another. Now it's in line. Look at that. Look at that. It's almost like I planned it. Urete. There we go. And we look at her chin, and we're not going to get it. It's not going to be. It's rounder than that. I'll have to kill this line, otherwise it's going to snap my drawings, and I'll be aggravated. All right. Okay. More out on the side, I feel like. Maybe not that much jaw, but she's certainly not egg-shaped on the face here. I feel like I'm also kind of going way past this line down here. Shouldn't be going past that line. Like more like this. Fussing with characters is a thing that, I mean, I'm going to be living with this character for a long time, so I want to make sure I've got it, every bit of it understood and comprehended. So I get what this character is doing and sort of understand where we are with it. Okay. Feel like the eyebrows come in like this towards the center line. There we go. And she's going to have definitely brown eyes. Well, let's go on ahead and then at least take a look at what these eyes look like filled in. Get an idea of what we're dealing with. There we go. Excellent. I feel like this is there we go. There. Okay. Now we're dealing with, this is a much more Egyptian looking face, kind of classically Egyptian, which will work well. It'll offset well with light colored hair. Which I feel like would be severe. So I was originally going to have her be curly haired, and she might still be, but she is the kind of person to put her hair in a bun almost all the time. Just by nature, the kind of person she is. It'd be severe. And as much as she can rule this hair in, she's going to. She's by the book and military as much as possible. So even if her hair is sort of unruly and going to be severe in some way or another, she's still going to wear it in a bun. She's still young. There we go. There we go. Much more like that. Noticing that looking at the ethnicity of Middle Eastern women, they have the baby hairs of the Asians have a little bit of the baby hairs coming down on the side. Although I think she would rule those, she'd rankle those. She'd hate them. They would just irritate her. As a character, I think that would be a thing. She'd get very irritated by the baby hairs. But we'll need to keep in mind that that's there, because when she gets frazzled, I'm sure that those will come out and they will be out of her severe bun. Those little hairs that are on the side of the face for women like that, they're hard to control because they're very small and fine, and they break easily. And so no matter how much, especially for women who, this particular genetic run right here with these little baby hairs usually happens with women who have coarse, thicker hair, like Asians and like the Middle Eastern women. So the hair is thicker and easier to control and wrangle and put it into a bun or something like that. But then you have these little teeny hairs in the side of your head, which are really, really thin and fragile. And so they don't pull all the way back to the back. They won't go to the back. They break. And then you end up with either you shave them, which then you're shaving and you feel really weird because you're a woman who's shaving, or you just let them fall down in front of your face, even though they drive you crazy. Because they're going to drive you crazy, because they're going to sit here and tickle and get into your ear and, weird things like that. So I get some of the frustration. By the way, this comes from talking to a number of people who have this hair. It's fascinating dealing with people who, I saw my kids in Japan, especially my girls. The boys didn't care as much. The boys don't get that. They start growing in actual beards at some point in time. Although teenage boys don't grow in beards very well. It's very funny. And they want to so badly. And they never do. Okay. So now we're looking at sort of the first looks of this particular character. I feel like the eyes are out of proportion. I feel like I don't like the eyes for some reason. Let's see if a simple fix can make this better. Maybe. Yeah, I think that'll make that better. Doesn't make it better yet because I've got to go around this. Got to go around the nose, but think the eyes are just way too big. And now I feel like I may have messed up their positioning. We'll have to see. All right. Okay. Let's talk about some of the other things that are going on in Mayrell's life. And she belongs to a group that is very similar to a gypsy clan. So the question really is, would she have body tattoos? I mean, the character herself, I don't feel like would find that to be an appropriate thing. But if it's a societal thing, if your society does it, then you just do it as well. So that's sort of the next question. Does she have body tattoos? I'm actually going to change this because she's pulled all her hair back. And that's what we want right here. There we go. And the question really is, does she have body tattoos? Yeah, that's my thought too. She's got body tattoos from when she was a kid. We are going to start Mayrell when we see her the first time. We're meeting her when she's 14 or 15 or something like that. I mean, she's still very young. But the reason I'm heading for body tattoos is that might be something that would be identifiable because she's going to look younger as a young girl in the very, very beginning. And you want to still have people go, oh, that's the same character, even though I'm going to age her up a little. And that's why I'm headed for that. But the other thing is, somewhere in this story, I want to talk about the Deistati as the outsiders, as the other. Like I said, I've built them to be sort of like gypsies in a lot of ways. And so you kind of want to have that feel of having the people look at her and go, oh, you're Deistati. You know what I mean? Like, you want that feel sometimes because I want to have that tension. That's part of the tension. That's part of her character is she wants to fix that. She wants to right that wrong. She has a desire to push. So, you can't do that if she doesn't have some obvious sign that she's Deistati, because at this point in time, humans are mutts. So we've got all kinds of genetic drift going all over the place. So we're not going to have it easily be identifiable. She's not going to easily be able to be seen as Deistati. So I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to have body tattoos of some sort here. It won't be easy to identify her as such. So just thinning out her neck As the problem, of course, with manga style is that it's not actually proportionate. So it looks weird when you draw actual, like, correct proportions. It looks strange. Men in manga have really thick necks. Right? Like right over here or something. A tattoo that's back there. Although I've got to admit, if you've got a tattoo on the back of your neck that identifies you as some culture that is not necessarily political, like the way I've set it up is the Deistati they can get politically charged. Over the years, they've gotten politically charged. They've gotten into fights. They've gotten into arguments and turf wars. So, I mean, they're not right now. At this moment, that's not where they are. But they took over. They took over an old, or they tend to take over old huge ships like the Polaris and repopulate them. And they've got some weird functions. They took over the previous generation's ships, huge jump ships, and that's a thing. So let me turn on the camera. Let's talk a little bit about this, because I'm thinking this through. Let's be logical about this. So we're going to go back here. So the Deistati, they took over these old Polaris-type ships. So they've got these ancient jump ships. Because the ancient jump ships, there was a technology advance that allows all of the cultures to live together. Because so many of these different races, these different aliens, live in different atmospheres and different pressures and different temperatures, that it was impossible to make one hallway where all the races could just walk through the hallways. So there once was a time, probably 100 years, maybe 200 years prior to this point in culture, where you had a Jacine ship, and then you had a human ship, and then you had a Volmar ship, and never the twain shall meet. And they just talked to each other via comms, and all was good. And now, all of those races are mixed together because they figured out how to make that technology work. It was cultural. It was important. Well, the Deistati took over old human ships. So there's no place on these ships for Jacine. There's no place on the ships for the Volmar. So the other races can't live on human ships. After 200 or so years, 250, so however long, they've got this reputation for being very culturally unique, or culturally, what's the word I'm looking for? Isolated, culturally isolated. So they don't have other races. And to some degree, there's even a belief that the Deistati are racist. But they're not. They're just bound to a ship with one atmosphere of oxygen, nitrogen, which all the other races can't live in. So they've got like that's one of the things that Mayrell's working against, right? She thinks this is silly. We're not this way. This isn't the way we are. We should go out there and do stuff about this. And they have gotten to the point where there aren't that many Deistati in the culture. they prefer to live with their own people, and you can live with your own people, and never the twain shall meet. And so part of what happens with Meirel is she joins Unity, and she joins the military, and the military does what the military does, which is we'll take anybody as long as you can pass the test. Well, she can pass the tests. That's not a problem. But now that she's one of like 12 Deastati in the entire military organization. There aren't that many. And she's going to run into people who feel like she's an idiot for being a Deastati. And, she wants, and so I want to have that friction. Now, Chang, of course, doesn't care. That's the thing. Chang's like, if you can fly the ship, we're good. Turns out she's really good at sales. She's got a great reaction speed. She scores very high on all of this stuff. So she's an asset to whomever. And that's going to be one of those things. She could have, if she wasn't Deastati, they would have put her on a heavy cruiser or something big to be the sailmaster. But she's Deastati, so they stick her on this Corvette. Which is all right, because Chang doesn't care. And, it's sort of talking a little bit about how we evolve that sense of other. And I want to kind of go into that. So that is something that I've been fascinated with and want to explore to some degree. So I agree with you that if there are tattoos, so all of this was to say tattoos. Where would we be with tattoos? And I feel like, how would we do that? I mean, obviously they wouldn't stick it on their cheeks or on their eyebrows, although they might, right? So let's think it through. Where would you put tattoos? This is two ways. I mean, the Deastati themselves have gotten to the point where they're thumbing their noses at the Unity and the Confederacy. And the Confederacy and the Unity are, like the collarbone. That's not a bad place. Yeah, I mean, kind of, that's what I'm thinking about here. When you design characters, there has to be a certain amount of logic. Yeah, it's funny. That's exactly what I was thinking when we said neck. Was how the OPA puts that neck tattoo around their necks. It almost is like, well, because I mean, if it was piercings, we could pull them. And I feel like tattoos are. I'm logicking this through. You have a culture that many of the elders, there's the party that gets angry easily or whatever, they want to thumb their nose specifically at the Unity, and I think that they're using it as a patriotism thing, but really what it's doing is it's marking their people by accident and making them easily identifiable and targets for racism and, well, maybe not racism, but I guess culturalism. But I agree. The Expanse OPA is a great example of how to deal with that. I think you're right. So that's not a bad idea. We could put it on the collarbone, but again, you look at the and a uniform would cover it up. So here's where we want to make that next thought. I mean, you've been down this road, Brent. You talk from the point of view of the military. The military just tries to make you guys all one unit. That's the way it goes. Doesn't matter what color your skin is. Doesn't matter. It's a very, because you're all going to be brothers in arms. and sisters. So you look at this and kind of think about the way that the military does things. So then you look at what will the Deistati do to bounce back from that. And I feel like it depends on whether you would have a group of people. Would you have a group of elders that decided to thumb their nose at the militaries? If so, you'd end up with face tattoos. Now, also, I mean, we did have Chakotay in Voyager who had a face tattoo, and Q who did a lot more face tattoo. So there's that. I mean, I never really felt like Chakotay's tattoo was obnoxious. I mean, in the very beginning, maybe. It's hard for me to remember all the way back to 93 now. But trying to remember what my first thought. Yeah, but let's say you were from an African tribe. Because we actually do have people on the planet right now that do face tattoos. African tribes specifically. What if you were from an African tribe and you had the face tattoos because it was part of your culture and you joined the military? You know, you came over to America, got your green card, and then finally actually got, citizenship. It's just what you wanted to do with life. You become an American citizen. You go through all that stuff. I think the only reason we don't have more Africans here is because it's all third world nations down there right now, and they don't know that they can leave. So I think that's the only reason why we don't have an influx of Africans in. Right. There would have to be waivers. You're right. That's exactly what it would be. It would have to be waivers. And that's what I think I'm looking for. I'm looking for that. It's got to be a pain in the ass for her. Because that's part of what's making her aggravated towards her own people. I mean, her own people put this on her, and she's now stuck with it. But if it was subtle, I mean, not like in your face. Let's go back to Meryl and look at her here. I mean, what if we did something? That's interesting. Something like a dot and something like this, right? It's not in your face. It would be, I mean, it's in your face to some degree. Or maybe just 3 dots on her forehead like this, right? That still indicates that she has something going on here. But it isn't directly in your face. Okay, so I'm liking this plan a little bit more. And it's enough that people would see it right off the bat and go, oh, you're Deistati. Hey, I could become famous. I could buy followers, primes, and viewers on added viewers. Well, no, actually, don't hate to ask. The only problem that I have with skin tone is I'm a manga artist. Not all of these will be in color. So we really kind of only have an option of light hair or dark hair. And we don't really have an option in between. Not only that, I do feel like by the time we get to this era in life, 500 years from now, we'll still have racial differentiation. We won't be blurred together into a mutt. However, I don't think we'll have cultural differentiation anymore by color. I think what will have happened is we will have left Earth and shoved as many people as we could in each spaceship. And though you might have only white people on this one spaceship, the 500 spaceships elsewhere have this mix of everybody. And so I feel like we might still have the same genetic lines that give us the same genetic traits that you got. Because, I mean, we earned these traits by difficult times. White people are white because it was extremely cold. Black people are black because more melatonin in the skin. Asian people are Asian because they fished and they were on the sea more. And so we earned these genetic traits by thousands of years sitting on these different areas of Earth. So I feel like we're still going to have epicanthal folds in the eyelids. We're still going to have a number of different colors of skin. But I feel like it's going to start getting mixy. Like you're going to end up with thick eyebrows and Western eyes, or Eastern eyes and very thin eyebrows and very, very thin and wispy hair. So I feel like all of the traits that we earned over time are going to drift. And that seems like that's what's going to happen over the long run. That's where I'm kind of going on this. So that you won't be able to easily identify by skin color, because they won't all be the same skin color, even though the Deistati might be, because they're all stuck on the same ship. And effectively, they're going to be one family, but the ship is huge. And they are gypsies, so they'll take in people who they'll take in people. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking something subtle, like 3 dots on her forehead, like that. It's very, very subtle. What do we think? It's not in her face. It's not in your face necessarily, but she can't remove them. And I don't want just 1 dot, because that could be a birthmark. Right? So I'm looking at 3 dots. And so that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, was colors and dot placement represent different clan information and things like that. What ship did you come from? Did you come from the booty 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 boop 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 boop? Did you come from the bop 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 beep? And the clan dots drift depending on what those are. The only problem, of course, is that in order for this to work, she's having a talk with her father, and before things start, these are the only signs. In fact, that would be an interesting interaction between Chang and Meirel, because it occurs to me, yeah, but have you seen the meme that's gone around about Ensign Rowe coming on board the Enterprise and Riker saying, "On Starfleet ships, you don't wear anything but the uniform." And then, of course, cut to Worf sitting there with his bulge. right? And it's like, well, okay, well then there's that. So, because I mean, this is all talking about interface with the military. We're interfacing with people who are using clan. It's a funny meme because it actually makes a solid point, which is why dress down Ensign Rowe for putting on her Bajoran earring when we let Worf wear his baldric, right? So, of course, my thought is, I don't mean to go into deep detail on this one because this is a deep dive into Star Trek, but my thought is, obviously, really, the truth is, they're just screwing with, they're hazing her. You can wear an earring, and she was wearing an earring before that, so clearly she was wearing her earring when she got into the transporter room, and that's a military installation, and she probably was dismissed by some commanding officer in the transporter room on the base. So, my first thought here is that she was wearing her earring until she got in the Enterprise, and the truth is, that's just Riker hazing her. The more I think about that, the more I'm like, that's Riker hazing her. Which holds because later in that two-parter, she gets to put her earring back on, right? So, now, Meyrelle, on the other hand, this is a character who, I think you're right. I think that there would be, but I think I want to go a different direction. Riker being Riker. I think that I want to go a different direction. I think there would be jewelry and things like that make her her, that make her part of the culture. But I feel like we should go a different direction with her. Like, she shows up and she's got the tattoos, and Chang says, "Oh, so you're, Boodley-Bop clan." And Meyrelle's taken aback and, "Wait, you understand clan stuff from Deistadi?" And Chang's like, "I pay attention to all kinds of things. I read books." Or something flippant, because Chang is flippant. We find out later, of course, she was married to a Deistadi. So that makes total sense. She knows all about this, but that's part of the texture of Chang. So she's just flippant about it. It's all right. I don't know. I just read books. But later on, she's like, "Hey, why don't you wear your little earring?" Or, yeah, she's being Sherlock. Why don't you wear your little earring and or whatever is our jewelry thing? And Meyrelle then that gives an opportunity for Meyrelle to say, "I don't think that's appropriate. Nothing I can do about the tattoo, but I can not wear my earring, and that's fine. Or my neck brace or whatever. Whatever's the thing." So maybe she does have a neck thing. I think I like like a torque, in a way. A nose ring. Well, the problem with any permanent jewelry like that is she'd have to get re-pierced, right? Because what I was thinking was part of the character arc for this character, part of what's making us kind of work with her, is that this character is learning to accept her culture. She sees the divide between the two, and the solution is to be more unity and less Deistadi. And, she has taken an extreme position where the less she can be Deistadi, the better. And she was an outrider to begin with. That's why I have her in the very first scene. But yeah, I'm thinking, what about a torque? Something that goes around like this, around her neck. And maybe it's got, interesting jewelry like that. And we've got this kind of torque. that they wear. And so I have felt that the Deistati at some point in time were, that's too low. The Deistati were slaves or enslaved at one point in time. And that's part of the reason that they're mad and angry. But yeah, I feel like that would work really well. A torque of some sort. Which gives some identification. Oh, thank you. And hello, Carolyn. It's good to see you. I love thinking through the characters. It gives me, when I write them, it makes their voice clear. Very, very clear. So we now have this character who they have this torque. And the torque is some kind of identifier for the character. When you're born, they put the torque on you. You grow up wearing the torque all the time. I feel like that's probably a good thing. Then, when she goes into the military, she has to take off the torque, which is fine for her. She's okay with that. She doesn't have a problem with that at all because she's sort of rejecting her culture. But there will be other Deistati who do not approve of that. They feel like that'd be like asking Muslim women who join the military to not wear a hair covering to some degree. I feel like that will be a rough thing. Right. Like it changes when you get married. Brent's saying that with the torque, you can have it represent marriage or some engagement or something like that. And I agree. That would be a reasonable thing. That's fine, Matt. You guys are here. It's good. Anytime you're here is fine. We're discussing a character here who is part of, in the story, in the Bellatrix Rising story, there is a clan of people that are very much like gypsies. And, yeah, with a Q. It's super weird. And it's mostly because torques are not actually things that we wear in our culture. So we borrowed the word and the spelling from the culture that we got it from. So anyway, for Carolyn and Matt, what we're doing over here is I've got a character. This is what we call the point of view character. She's the one that you enter the story with. So she's the character. Maybe. I actually feel like, okay. It's totally cool. That's what I do here is make stories. When we meet Mayrel, the first time we meet her, we're going to meet her on a Deistati ship. The Deistati ship is parked in a space that's known as, here, let me show you the map. Because I've got this on a map. Because this is part of, this isn't saying a whole lot into the story. You're going to literally get spoils from the first 4 pages of the first comic, so that's not going to be a big deal. I'm going to open this up here with photos. There we go. Okay. This is the map of the local space, right? And this is where everything is. And you can see that we're centered on Bellatrix. When we first meet Mayrel, her ship's out here on this blue line. That blue line is the Bandois radio line. There's a world right over here that was destroyed during the Titan War, just before the Titan War. And nobody knows anything about the Bandois, except that they had radio. And they were broadcasting from radio for about 50 years, 55 years, before the bad guys in the Titan War blew up their world. Just blew them up, blew the whole world up, wholesale. Nobody had space flight on that world. So the only thing we know about the Bandois is the radio, their radio transmission. And this is the radio transmission line that's moving slowly across the galaxy. And one of the things that the characters of the story will do is they will often fly their ships over here and sit in the Bandois radio line and listen to the radio. They'll get an old AM, FM type radio and just receive the signal. Nobody knows what they look like. They don't speak the language. I think some scholars have been trying to crack the language. They probably could. And they probably listen to it. And it's probably just commercials for, toothpaste. And there are a lot of theories of what the Bandois look like. But since they never made television, nobody's ever seen a Bandois. And they never left the planet. So nobody ever, before the planet got blown up. So nobody's ever seen or laid eyes on or talked to. So nobody knows what they look like. So when we first meet Mayrel, they're here in the Bandois radio line, listening to, and that's one of the things that Mayrel likes to do, is listen to the radio and the Bandois radio line. Now, obviously, you can just record everything that possibly was recorded, and somebody probably has, and made an MP3 of it, I'm sure. But Mayrel likes to listen to it live. For her, that's adding a certain amount of depth to the character, to the people that were the Bandois. And so that's part of where we meet her, is already longing to leave. She's already one step out the door, right? So she's already deciding, I'm done being Deastati. I don't want to be Deastati. I'm interested in the Bandois. I'm interested in the unity, in the Confederacy. Why am I stuck on this ship tootling around doing nothing? So she's already got that cabin fever going for her. The reason I say that is because I don't think that there's going to be a marriage in her future. I don't see a marriage happening. This map is so complex. I have so many different little things going on here. It's so wild. There's all kinds of stuff on this map. The stories are really dramatic here. So that's the thing. Well, thank you. I feel like, I kept thinking up all of these. This is one of the things that made me really think I needed to leave Tamerlane behind. Because I can't do this with Tamerlane. There's no... Star Trek is Star Trek. It's rigid. I could have done a story about the radio line in Star Trek, but it would have been an episode. It wouldn't have been part of the texture of the world, right? It wouldn't have been part of the universe here. So, okay. We're dealing with her. I feel like when we come up with why she wears the torque, I feel like that's a family thing. Like, you're going to have a baby, and I'm going to have this baby in, 9 months. I now know that that I'm going to have this baby. So we're going to start crafting her torque now, right? And she'll grow up and she'll have to get extensions to the torque and things like that. And then when she's an adult, she gets a new torque. But the first parts of the torque are all going to be, that's a good one. The first parts of the torque will be the same, right? This is the baby piece of the torque is this front piece with an extension and this extension and this extension and this little extension here as you grow older, right? And then when you are an adult, we craft one for you that no longer extends or grows, right? It just is what it is. And then that way, let's put this here. Adolescent. I spelled it wrong, but that's okay. Adult. And these are extensions and add-ons for growth. What is it with me? Can't spell today. I'm in story mode, thinking mode. I'm not in writing mode. And I think that that's what we've got. Now we're actually adding a lot of depth to the Deistati culture. In fact, it would be kind of funny if there were certain Deistati who have earring pieces like this on a different ship. They don't wear the torque anymore. They've moved to an earring culture thing. It's the same structure. It's the same concept. But instead of a torque, they wear earrings, which that could cause stress between the two Deistati tribes, right? The Deistati tribe, the primary tribe, the Orthodox Deistati, they wear the torque to indicate bondage and slavery or yada, yada, yada. Whereas this offshoot tribe, they think that's all something that needs to be behind them as a culture. So they've moved to the ear cuffs that go along your ear. That's an interesting concept. I like that too. I'll hold that too. So we'll talk about some Deistati wear ear cuffs. Because it's not a slavery issue for them, or they have decided to reject the slavery aspect, or... Yeah, that's my thought, is you gain more earrings as you grow older, and this would be youth, right? And then when you are fully grown and your ear stops growing, you get one solid one, right? Adult. And there you go. Right? So once you grow, and in fact, that would be kind of an interesting thing, because then we can make it so that Chang's husband was this one. Yay. Which means that Chang will now recognize readily where Meirel is in Deistati culture as soon as she pulls out whether she has an earring or whether she has a torque. And I think that would definitely be an interesting subgroup. And I wonder, would it be culturally insensitive to say, earring or torque? Probably would be a little bit more I don't know. I remember I had a friend who you would say Indian. He would say dot or feather. And I thought, gosh, that's just right on that edge, right? I mean, it's like, and it's like, so I always felt like that would, if I were either Indian, like from India, or native, I think I'd find both of those things to be somewhat irritating. So maybe she would find it grating when people say, earring or torque, as sort of trying to delineate which tribe you belong to. So that could be a grating comment. One of the things about world building is trying to ascertain what your insults are. Because strangely, I think that it is very, hi Fred, by the way. I feel like it definitely is close to where we are with a Bajoran earring, but I don't want to put danglies on it. So, but I mean, really, there's only so much jewelry one can put that's removable on your body. You can wear rings, you can wear earrings and ear cuffs, you can wear clip-on earrings, and you can wear a torque. But like I was saying earlier, and I know you guys are Brent and I have been talking about this for a while. The biggest thing is story-wise. We talk about the story here. Story-wise, I want it to be removable so that this particular character, Mayrel, can make the choice to not wear it until she finally decides to accept her culture later down the story, in the arc. Because part of this character's growth is being able to accept that she's Deastati. And if it requires a piercing, she's going to have to go get her nose pierced or her ear pierced or something like that. Headband. Headband could be another one. That's another one. And, that's also kind of a thing. But I don't think that ear cuffs are unique to Bajorans. I don't think that's necessarily unique to Bajorans. I'm going to have far worse egregious crossovers with Star Trek's universe than I think the earring cuff. I don't think that's going to be as big of a deal as the fact that I have to have transporters. So, and yes, I have to have transporters, or I have to dump an entire story. I have a story down the road which involves exploring something about transporters, and so that means I've got to have transporters. I'm going to make them different than Star Trek, but it's still transporters. All right. So I didn't expect to get this deep into Deastati lore, but I'm liking it. I'm liking where we are. So you'll be able to tell that Mayrel, when she's younger, is going to have this torque. And when she's older, she's going to have a full torque. And that's going to be one of the ways you're going to be able to tell that she's grown up if you know the lore. Which will make... That's another one of those listed under really interesting rereading the story potential. Because if we plan this ahead of time, when I show Mayrel at 14 on the ship, listening to the Bandois radio, she can have this broken torque like this, where it's all add-ons and pieces. Then, when you see her later on put on her torque, it's going to be solid in one unit. And I'll just seed that somewhere in the story that we talk about that and discuss the children of the Deastati getting assembled torques. They keep getting extended so that they're bigger. And, that's a child's torque. This is an adult torque, Then you'll go back in time. Yeah. That's actually exactly Fred's saying Star Trek is not the only one with transporters. Stargate did them with the rings. That's actually exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it a teleport booth. You have to go to the booth and you get beamed to another booth. And then, you have to have, that means you have to have a destination. You have to have a teleporter at the destination point, and you have to have a teleporter at the transport point. And because that also gives me reason. Hang on real quick. Excuse me. Boy, the trees, they're killing me. And that gives me a reason to... Here, let me go ahead and bring the camera back online. That gives me a reason to have a ship that can land, because you don't have a teleport booth there, right? So there needs to be a teleport... Oh, that does remind me, though. There needs to be a teleport booth on the Kittiwake. So when we go back to the deck plans, we need to remember to put a teleport booth in there. Because the Kittiwake could be a forward teleport booth. That could be its job, right? The admiral wants to, or the diplomat needs to do the diplomatic thing and the diplomatic widget with this planet. So they'll send the Kittiwake out there to this planet. Kittiwake will land, and then the diplomat can beam to the Kittiwake and then come out and then do his thing and then get back into the Kittiwake and beam out. So I like that. That works. That's an aspect of teleportation that I hadn't thought about. Yep. Odds are good, Carolyn, that's Fred and not Lou. I'm just saying. As a side note, it could be both of them. They both use the same account, so they share it, which makes total sense. I don't have any problem with that. But yeah, so since I know you know both Lou and Fred, I was just saying that could be Fred. Just so you know. Fred joins my streams whenever, because I've been working on a big, large project for Fred that's huge, and we're just plugging away at it. So the large project that I'm working for Fred, I've been putting together all of the... Did you see were you here yesterday, Fred? Were you lurking? Because if I was working on your drawings yesterday and I didn't see you, so I assumed that you weren't here. But you could have been here, and I could have just been doing everything that you liked and nothing was wrong and there wasn't any issue. Let me bring that up. Because we were working on that. Right? Because I finished up this page here, and I'll share it for you. There we go. So we finished this page, Fred. I just went ahead and I still want to do something up in this upper corner up here because I feel like it's very open. So I'm not sure, but I feel like this page is done. I've made more of a fluffy cauliflower head for our tree. And I deepened in the lines and the colors so that it just was a little bit sharper and had more color, or more color, but more contrast. That's what I was looking for, is contrast. So just kind of deepening it out. And I call this one good on my side, except for these birds, which I want to kill. Haven't decided what to put out here, but of course we always have a thing that we need to do. But I feel like this is a big open area with nothing in it. And I might put in clouds or a storm or something. I hate to do this, guys, but I gotta go blow my nose real quick. I'll be right back. Because, of course, trees, they're not helping me. There's one good thing about quarantine, and that is I am absolutely sure this is hay fever, because I haven't had any air shark. Yeah, I could put an air shark out there, but they wouldn't. Would an air shark? If I put an air shark out there, would these guys just be sitting there? I mean, would they just be kind of hanging? Like nobody's worried about the big air shark in the background? I feel like anything that's up there is going to be the... What? You guys aren't paying attention to the big air shark that's behind you? You know what I mean? Unless the air shark was on their side. I mean, I guess the air shark could be on their side. Haha! Go attack them, air shark. Air shark. Go attack. You know. But I mean, could be. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's that they haven't seen it yet. Air shark sneaking up on them, and they're all blissfully unaware. But maybe that horse is just about to realize that they're about to get eaten by an air shark. Do we have airships? Because airships would be cool. Because I could do an airship like it's on standby and they're about to get into one. That could be cool. Like, what if we... Let's not use this piece, though. Let's take and open the original. Is it 91 or is it 47? It's 47. No, it's 91. You have chosen poorly. There we go. All right. Here's my thought. We'll do this real quick. And I'll add a layer. And what if we put an airship hanging out like above gondola below it like this. There we go. Some kind of attack prow of some sort. Because attack prow. There we go, like that. Like this. These are tying it down so it won't go anywhere. I think so too. 315. I don't know, 315's on my list. We'll see. Let's go look, shall we? Let's go see if 315's on my list. Let's go see if it's going to take 20 minutes for my computer to right mouse click. Yeah, I know, you're grumpy. I said the C word. Okay, I like that. I feel like that will give me something up here that's in this picture that would be there. In my Fred folder, looking at instructions. Yeah, 315 is not one that I'm supposed to be redoing. It doesn't mean I won't redo it, but it's not the one that I'm supposed to be redoing. Let's take a look at that page. Oh, yeah. Dirigibles. Ew. Yeah, I should add 315. So, yeah, dirigibles. So we'll tie this dirigible down to the building, which, you know, keeps it from floating away. There we go. And then we'll call this one, I'll go back and work on this one later, because I really want to get a perspective of what a blimp would look like from here. So I'm going to call that sort of okay at this point and lock it down. And make sure the blue doesn't go over any artwork, because I'll delete it later. Looks like the blue's clearing everything. Not in the cauliflower here. Okay. Cool. Save this. We'll close that out. I'm also working on this one, but I want to keep going back here and darkening it to the back. We'll get back there. So, we haven't gotten there yet. So, tomorrow, if you'd like, I can do 315 and finalize that other picture in the same foul swoop. Because I'm looking at this dirigible picture that you've got on 315, and I feel kind of like, I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, I could see that being, anyway, this is kind of boring for everybody who's hanging out here on this. So, you know, and 314. So there are these pictures that were drawn by somebody in pencil, and they're not bad to just redo them in ink. Like here, let me show you one of the ones that I finished that worked well for this, because we wrapped that up. And where is that? I just did it like 2 days ago, right? Just finished this one. It was later on. Yeah, here we go, 332. Oops. I was going to black that out. Didn't. So I apologize for not blacking it out. Sorry. There. But this was like a pencil drawing up at the top here with a little scarecrow. And all I did was just ink the actual... I just inked the pencil. And so it you know, I pretty much just used the pencil as an underdrawing. Corrected some of the proportions a little bit and did some of that stuff, but we just did this like that. So it's something to think about. Like some of these pictures, I'm looking at 314 where it's talking about using hang gliders. And kind of looking at that and thinking, I could just ink that and it's probably going to be fine. Because it was just pencil. And pencil's not going to work. Okay, we got about 10 minutes left, so I don't really want to start something new. Even though it's good to have Fred on board, we'll do Fred's work tomorrow too. What we've done today is an awful lot of work with Meryl. And we're going to keep going with this for just a little while longer. When you do character design on characters, you want to make it so that you think through the logic of the people, of the person. And it's actually, I know that Carolyn was like, I love how much work you're putting into it. I feel like everybody does this. This isn't just me. I feel like this is a thing that that all artists have to go through. We have to logic through our characters. And I think some artists don't, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't have characters that are flat and two-dimensional. But if you want non-two-dimensional characters, this is how you get them, is you have to think them through. And then they start talking. Once you have that figured out, they start chatting with you. You start hearing them talk to you. So I'm going to put that torque here. This is her before she went into the army. Put these 2 dots there. Give her more chin. A little bit more chin there. And now we can define the character. We know the defining marks that make her her. Maybe I want them to go from the side of her eyebrow there. Right? She's giving you the evil eye here. Right? Then we'll give her a little more chin there. She doesn't have earrings because that's not her tribe. It's not her tribal affiliation. But she does keep her hair up in a severe way. Even when she was younger, was her thing. Right? So she's not trying to look good. She's not trying to sell anything. She's just her. I'm going to come in here and do this. There we go. There. So, feel like we have done really good work today on Mayrel. Since she's a main character, it's okay to spend some extra time on her. It's okay to spend about 2 hours on this. I've already spent a lot more time thinking through some of her other pieces of her personality. So she's not going to be like that. She's standing up with her back bowed more. There you go. I haven't figured out what Nteas thought he'd wear, so we'll have to figure that out at some point here. We'll get to that. I haven't gotten there yet. We'll think of it somewhere along the line. Okay. So for right now, all we've got is a torque. Oh, huh? Well, she was wearing her torque. Oh, God. All right. There we go. There we go, like that. So there we go. And that's where we are with this character, I think. Less of that. There we go, more like that. Looking at her. So this is going to start influencing my design of this character as far as like a physical design. The next step is I'll make a maquette for her so that I can place her in places. And also use a maquette that designs her, that looks like her face. so that it's easier to just throw her in a scene and not have to worry about, having to go through all the stages we just went through here on this. Well, at least not all the frustration, because I go through an inordinate amount of frustration with stuff. But we have now gotten to the point where we are at saving this, and we will do that. No, probably not my Instagram uploads, though. I'm just saying. Not saying, but I'm saying. Okay. Oh, man. Oh, man. Because this is a rough. So since this is a rough, I'm not worrying about it. Next, we're going to think of, what does Meryl look like? What does her clothes look like? What would they be wearing? My thought is making a little bit of we got about 5 minutes left. Where I'm going to start with this one, when we start tomorrow on this, we're going to need to look at how the Deistati live. Living is how we define our clothing. So, how did the Deistati live? Do they live on the edge of disaster, at which time it would just be normal clothes? Or do they have some semblance of space suit, something that protects them? I've established that the Unity has some kind of force fieldian gloves, helmet thing that allows you to have an emergency force field that pops around your head and pops around your hands, so that you can just operate in the real world with your spacesuit uniform. And then if there's a sudden decompression of the ship, you're blown out into space, your little helmet pops on, your little gloves pop on, and then you're like, oh crap, now I'm floating free and I can't get back. Because I guess I really wouldn't think that you would have propellant on board your spacesuit all the time. So we'd have to think about that. Probably some kind of ion thruster that you can put on your, you wear an ion thruster on your hip. You hold the ion thruster directly in front of you, and then you go, because ion thrusters aren't exactly the most efficient way of doing things, but they also aren't explosive, because you can have something inert like a xenon gas. Right? Use the force. Okay. That's something to think about. We need to think a little bit tomorrow about more. We're going to kind of dive deeper into the Deistati and what kind of universe they live in, because we're going to have to start deciding, what is she wearing? Is she wearing nothing? Because that would suck in general. Space is cold and horrible. Or is she... And maybe that's what the torque represents. Maybe the torque represents spacesuits. I mean, I've been going around saying that it represents slavery, but maybe that's also another thought process that people have. Oh, you wear torques because you think you're slaves to the system or slaves to the man. No, we wear torques to represent spacesuits, the old spacesuits. That'd be kind of an interesting thing. We're going to do half and half, 1 hour on, 1 hour off. So I'm going to work with Fred's piece, the second piece that we were working on. I just got really carried away with Mayrel today. But tomorrow morning, I think I'll dedicate the first hour to finishing that piece that we didn't do last time. And then I'll dedicate the second hour to Mayrel. I'd like to roll out of the week with Mayrel under control and ready to go, so that we can work on Bennett next week, because it's not Bennett. So want to get all three of the main characters rolled out. We actually have the artist thing tomorrow because tomorrow's Friday. So might not be working on Mayrel tomorrow. We'll have to see. I might work on Mayrel tonight and finish that up and then just report into you guys tomorrow morning. Although having you guys as part of the creative process is kind of fun. So I might actually just postpone that till next week. So we'll see. Working on characters is an interesting thing. So we'll do that. It's part of the process. This is all part of the process. So you're here joining me on the process. Okay, well, it's lunchtime. So go eat lunch, guys. And I will see you tomorrow, and we will continue on with this excursion. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.